Okay, so what exactly is dynamic equilibrium? Well, dynamic equilibrium can be best demonstrated by this visual, because if you can understand this visual, then you can see what happens when a reaction enters equilibrium. A lot of people think that equilibrium means that all of the reactants have been used up and that the reaction sort of stops, and that's at equilibrium. But that's not necessarily what a dynamic equilibrium is. Dynamic equilibrium is basically the rate of the forward and the backwards reaction is at the same point, not the amount. So you can see in this reaction that now it has been equilibrium has been established, but the concentration, the amount is different. The scooping of the water is still the same, but you can see that there are more products than the reactants. So here's an example with your hydrogen gas and iodine gas reacting to form your 2 moles of hydrogen iodide. So what happens is when this were to react, this double arrow indicates a reversible reaction. And if they have the same sort of length, that means that this is at equilibrium, or when at equilibrium, you would have the same amounts of your products as your reactants. So you would have the same amount. However, when the arrow, if you would have to have a larger forward arrow than the reverse arrow, that means that you would have a larger concentration of your products over the reactants, and likewise with a larger reactants arrow, you would have more of the reactants than the products. So that's what a dynamic equilibrium is. And for the next video, we'll talk about what happens, or how we calculate your equilibrium constant, and how to make sense out of what those numbers represent in your equilibrium constant.